My name is Sean Morgan. I'm an analyst with Dell'Oro Group, and I'm here to MC the afternoon for you. I hope you've enjoyed it so far. I've had a really good time. You know what has amazed me the most is how far people have come for this event. Like I've talked to people from all over the world, from Japan and Poland and the Middle East and everywhere. So I'm really, really excited about that, and I'm glad that you guys are all here for this. So I want to introduce our next panel. So we have an afternoon of a couple of panels, some presentations. It's going to be some really insightful, great discussions. And our next panel is moderated by a colleague of mine. So the topic is Executive Perspectives, SD-WAN, SASE, and the Evolution to NaaS. And my very good colleague, Mauricio Sanchez, who is Senior Director of Enterprise Networking and Security Market Research at Dell'Oro Group, is going to be hosting that panel, and I'd like to bring him out on stage. Give him a warm hand.
Thanks, Sean. Very good, very glad to be here. You got 2 for 1 today from the Dell'Oro Group. And so today we'll be talking about the perspectives of SD-WAN, SASE, and the evolution to NaaS. At this point, I'd like to invite my distinguished panelists. First, Ian. Please, Ian, come up. From CTO, Executive President of Product. It's from Cyber Ratings. So thank you.
Thanks, Mauricio.
Right here. Next up is Samaresh Nair, from Director of Product Management from Palo Alto. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Next up from Repro is Manoj Krishnan. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. All right, last but not least, we got Bob Patterson from the U.S. General Service Administration. Very good. Thanks, Bob. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
Very good. We got an exciting panel this afternoon. So as Sean said, we got the after lunch session, which is always difficult. So hopefully everyone's got a little bit of coffee and is ready to go. But before we dig in, MEF asked the panel coordinators, or folks like myself, a moderator, would you like to present a little bit? And it's like, what industry analyst doesn't like to get on their soapbox? So I've got a couple slides to be able to discuss a little bit about what we do and what I'm looking at, right? Because for me, coming here is to not just have the opportunity to have conversations like today, but also be able to have the conversations in the hallway, which are always fantastic and insightful for what we do day to day at Dell'Oro. So if we get do we have slides teed up? Very good. So I've been at Dell'Oro for 5 years and came in right before the pandemic started. And what I identified at that point that is still very relevant to today is what I call the enterprise IT transformation trifecta that is hitting all parts of the enterprise landscape, but given we're here at MEF, talking about in the context of the enterprise WAN. So I cover enterprise and security for networking, actually not part of the telco side of the house, but I think these two worlds are somewhat now becoming indistinguishable. And so when the pandemic hit, a lot of IT administrators that I talked to started feeling the pressure about, wait, I gotta transform my cloud operations, I gotta transform the edge, and let's not forget about the workforce because we all started working from home all of a sudden. And all this brewed that perfect storm, what we call a black swan moment. Well, now you would layer on top of the AI that's happened to come into view in the last couple of years. Everyone's walking around with their hair on fire. And so what I've been seeing is a couple things, and let's see if we build it out. We'll build it out to this to be able to get to our panel. But what I see is the enterprise architecture moving in a direction. And I talked to Pascal and Stan here at MEF, and I see the world in a very similar light. That's probably why they invite me. But I actually see a couple more things beyond just that middle mile NaaS, the connectivity between the cloud and SASE, which is I think a very strong point. I think on this slide, what I call out is an additional area, and if you've spoken to me while we're here, you'll know that I'm probing on this, is when we talk about the networking and the architectures from a networking perspective, I hear the IT administrators and the enterprise CISOs and CIOs that I talk to is the implications, not just of the total package that I show here, but also how does it extend down to the campus level? How does it extend inside the cloud service providers and the networking capabilities in that? And so I see a world coming together that does combine the aspects of what MEF is doing here with a couple of other trimmings, all because we're moving into a world that is much more software and SaaS-centric with some hardware that's centrally controlled and ultimately can be managed as a service. And I think this is a perfect segue to talk about then for today's panel about how the rubber is meeting the road on a couple of different fronts, because we got a diverse set of perspectives here, and we'll do a three-part session in terms of discussing the topic at hand. And so the first topic I wanted to tee off, since we're talking about SASE, one of my favorite topics, is the role of SASE in enterprise digital transformation and what it means in today's landscape. And Samaresh, I wanted to start with you insofar, coming from the Palo Alto from a vendor perspective, is how is SASE transforming how enterprises approach network security, and what are the key benefits you've observed from integrating SD-WAN, Zero Trust, and SSE into a single framework?
First of all, Mauricio, thank you for having me here. Very happy to be in front of all the audience here and with the rest of my panelists. Hopefully, we'll have some engaging conversation over the next 30 minutes or so. So what SASE really does is it helps us to create a cloud-native architecture, which is really going differently than the traditional data center-centric architecture. So there are kind of a few components which are involved over here, which is SD-WAN and Zero Trust, and then SSE. So together, what this does is really provide a ubiquitous security across various different applications and users, no matter where they are sitting. They could be on the cloud, they could be in a data center, they could be somewhere else. But a kind of ubiquitous architecture is what it provides. Now, talking a little bit more about individual components, so let's talk about SD-WAN for the moment. So SD-WAN really helps us to kind of create networking performance monitoring so that an application is monitored at real time and steered across the network in the most reliable way. It kind of helps to get a better quality of application for the user, and also helps to leverage the bandwidth very efficiently. And then if you look at Zero Trust really means there is no implied trust. So what Zero Trust does is it kind of helps to authenticate a user and a device, make sure that they are actually authorized to get into or access the applications wherever they are sitting. And you also want to probably look at where the user is actually authenticating from, what their sort of qualifications are, like they might be eligible to access certain application but not certain others. So kind of helps to create all these portfolios or policies. And then lastly, the SSE. Now SSE really puts in all the security overlays, so things like secure web gateway, CASB, GLP. So it helps to kind of create the entire security and data protection for all the users. So together, if you look at all of these three things together, it kind of helps to provide a better quality to an end user and provide a more seamless operations and easy to manage operations. That's really what SASE actually covers.
Fantastic, and I hear Palo Alto's got a pretty good SASE solution. But let's go to Bob, because I'd like to hear the perspective coming from the consumer, the purchaser, right? The person who actually has to deploy this technology and the solutions. And so the question for you is that from a public sector perspective, how is the adoption of SASE influencing government agencies' cybersecurity and network management approaches?
Thanks for having me and inviting the U.S. General Services Administration to participate. Now, for those who don't know about GSA, they are a premier facilitator between federal and DoD agencies and components and vendors for a variety of products, IT products and services and solutions. So to give you an idea of what we do, last year the GSA facilitated actually, I have to say there's the Federal Acquisition Service, which I'm a part of, and within that, there's the Office of IT Category, or ITC. So ITC is the entity within GSA that provides the technical expertise on IT products and services, as well as acquisition expertise. So last year, $38.1 billion in manage the spend for agencies. Of that, because of our buying power, we saved agencies about $1.5 billion. And our mission is to also make sure that small and disadvantaged businesses get a piece of that pie. So last year, 550 was devoted to local and state agencies and governments, and a total of 8.3 billion was spent or allocated to the small businesses. So that's our landscape. So as advisors, we are excited about SASE because SASE gives you that single pane of glass with the ability to see within a portal, and that minimizes what our customer agencies need to do in order to maintain their networks in a secure posture. However, one of the things that has been holding things back is the fact that without those standardizations, things aren't progressing in lockstep. I mean, I was taken very much by the gentleman from Orange who said, alone you travel faster, but together you travel farther. And nothing could be more true than with federal agencies. A lot of federal agencies, DoD components, simply don't have the technical expertise in-house, so a standardization helps because it is simply a shorthand way of saying this solution, this product, this vendor is, what is the real deal. And so with the standardization, GSA is all for it. There are some issues because we, as part of the federal government, have to have different, standards that we also have to obey. Like we constantly have White House executive orders, and then organizations like CISA and NIST have to basically take the executive order and create standards and advice out of that. And so we have to also incorporate that in our advice and what we look at from the vendors, service providers. So we use that shorthand, but we need to also have providers and vendors that are aware of our landscape and our restrictions. So we're all for standardization, and having that single pane of glass is just a great thing for our customer agencies. So makes it a lot easier. The one thing that I have to say is, the Office of Personnel Management, OPM, has constantly said that we should avoid single vendor lock-in. Unfortunately, with SASE and NaaS, there's a tension there. So that, where that stands is in flux. So we have to, we're trying to get some guidance from above, and not only him, but also other aspects. So the future looks bright, and I think the agencies can only benefit from SASE incorporating the various things. Especially, we love zero trust because that assumption of you're already in, the threat actors are already inside your network is a great paradigm to, work from. So.
Well, thanks for that, Bob. Before I come to you, Ian, because I've got a question about some of the things Bob said in terms of standards, and I want to get a perspective on security. But I want to go to you first, Minaj, about discussing, and we've heard from Semrush that SASE is the integration of SD-WAN and SSEs, and Bob said it's a single pane of glass, and it feels to me like, well, so what's the role of a managed service provider in this context? So for an enterprise that's adopting SASE, what's the value of someone like Wipro to come in and say, this is what we can do to help you.
Thank you for having me here. So, at Wipro, as a global IT services and consulting company, we have close to about 1,300 customers worldwide. And most of our customers have global operations, and they have a globally distributed workforce. Now, as IT trends like AI, containerized applications, and cloud-based services like SaaS, PaaS are shaping business transformation, network is becoming the foundation for operational stability and security, right? So as our customers are adopting NaaS, IT initiatives like cloudification, application modernization, edge computing, and a hybrid workforce is driving an accelerated demand for SASE services. Now, from our perspective, we see MEF developing a standard framework that helps build consensus in a rapidly growing but extremely fragmented market. And this helps build consensus among enterprises, system integrators like us, as well as OEMs, right? And that improves the market efficiency. Now, from a system integrator perspective, this brings a lot of value to us. One, it helps us with a simplified service offering, more of standard services, less customization, easier to design, deploy, and manage. Second, it helps us with market credibility and differentiation because customers want to buy from a provider who provides a certain benchmark of services. Three, the most important conversation that we are having with our customers when we talk about NaaS is platform. And to your point, with SASE, you have an integrated platform with NaaS. And when you are in a multi-vendor ecosystem and you have to integrate various APIs, having standard certified APIs helps you with that integration, makes it more efficient. Fourth is interoperability because customers want to choose fit for purpose solutions. So this is a multi-solution environment. So it's easier for us to integrate that. It helps with scalability and flexibility because customers' demands change as the business drivers change. And most of all, it helps us improve our security posture, which helps customers keep the customer's environment secure. Now, from an end customer perspective, we see a lot of value in this. One, it helps them with enhanced network and security operations. It improves user experience. It helps them operate in a multi-cloud environment. It helps them scale based on their business demands, and all of this at the right cost. So
it sounds like a lot of opportunity yet, because at the SASE may be a single vendor, but then you start bringing the NaaS piece, you bring in the complexities. There's a lot for a managed service provider to come in to assist an enterprise with. I want to bring the conversation to security, and I want to bring it to Ian. To discuss from the context of an enterprise and looking at SASE and SD-WAN, and what are the critical factors that an enterprise should be thinking about when it comes to security and performance? And I'll throw a second piece to this that I want you, because I want to shift the conversation to the new MEF certifications that I know you're part of. So I want you to first help the audience understand what are the things that enterprises should be thinking about, and then help us understand, it's like, how are these new MEF certifications helping to validate that situation?
Sure. That's a great question. Thanks, Mauricio. So as the official SASE certification testing partner for MEF, we're big proponents of helping enterprise customers, service providers, the entire ecosystem and value chain understand that visibility and transparency into the effectiveness, the actual effectiveness of the core capabilities for each solution that comprise SASE, whether it's in the SD-WAN area, ZTNA area, or SSE area, is critical. Just having the features alone, will get you started down that journey, but isn't enough to produce a solution that may be enterprise class, that meets the requirements of your end user customer or your partners. Being able to access data through structured and detailed evaluation, validation, and testing, to be able to understand the true effectiveness around the core capabilities of a technology, are going to be critical to help build the trust necessary so that the ecosystem can accelerate both solution development and adoption. Right? As an example, when we test for SD-WAN, we want to be able to test for its core capability to provide application assurance and protection, network resiliency, multimedia protection and applications, both on a good day, under ideal situations, as well as under adverse situations. And being able to have that visibility across the board and build the confidence in the underlying technologies will help both the end user customers, service provider partners, and the vendors build better products, better solutions, and make faster choices in which technologies they can adopt that will meet their requirements.
Thanks for that perspective. And so I spent many years in the ITF and IEEE, so I come from a standards background from a vendor perspective, because I was at the HP at the time. And so totally understand in terms of how standards define and set the bar. I want to go to Samarish as a vendor, because I was there at one point in my career. MEF certifications, is it a case where they're setting a higher bar that Palo Alto is aspiring to, or is it a question that it's helping validate what's there and making it easier for enterprises to adopt the technology, the SASE technology, the Palo Alto?
That's a great question. So what certification really does is that it ensures to the customer that their investments are actually protected, they are performing to the level that they are supposed to. Having an external third-party validation really helps to give that assurance to all the customers. So we look at all of the third-party testing and certifications in a few different ways. So one is that a customer would definitely want to have an external validation. While we strive our best to always do our best, but does it really perform the way it is supposed to? And this is where the external validation will come into picture. Now, the second thing also, a different angle is really that if you see this is an ever-evolving field, and there is a lot going on, how do we actually ensure that current products that are available to the customers are actually providing what they are actually asking for? And when we look at MEF certifications, which goes through a lot of scrutiny in terms of test methodologies and a lot of discussions from the industry experts, it really helps us to kind of refine that whole testing process. So that's really a value add for us.
Fantastic. Thank you for that perspective. And I'd like to go to you, Manoj, looking at it from the managed service provider perspective in terms of how these certifications are making your life easier, or maybe for the customers easier.
Yeah, you know, most customers are adopting NaaS because they want scalability and flexibility and cost optimization. At the same time, they want to improve and simplify their network operations and enhance security, right? Now, these almost sound like conflicting priorities, right? You want to improve the quality of services that you consume, but you want to consume them at a lower cost. Now, one of the biggest advantages of integrating SASE with NaaS is that you get security at scale. It basically means that you can now provide secure access for your users, your devices, or your applications, irrespective of where they're being accessed from, on-prem, on cloud, public or private, or even on the internet, right? Which basically means you have consistent security across your ecosystem and secure policies across your ecosystem. Second, SaaS, as we discussed earlier, SASE also helps you with an integrated platform. So you have real-time threat detection, you have real-time monitoring, and you have a single pane of glass to monitor all your services. And being cloud-based, you can also extend SASE to your remote workforce. The role that we see MEF playing is in driving standardization, in enforcing interoperability, and developing solutions that can be scalable, right? So which basically means you can now implement SASE in the most efficient manner. On the other side, MEF certification will also ensure that you are promoting zero trust architecture. You are ensuring there's a minimum standard of security and nobody's cutting corners. And you're also improving market collaboration, which basically protects you from future potential threats. So now by integrating SASE with NaaS and by collaborating and deploying certified MEF solutions, the seemingly conflicting priority of cost versus quality starts to become a reality, right? And you're able to deploy them more effectively. So that's the value that we see for our customers in these certifications, that you can get the right solutions at the right cost in a more standard and efficient manner.
Thank you for that perspective. So ultimately, it facilitates the adoption, make sure that it's a more level playing field that people can latch onto.
Yeah.
And we haven't heard from you, Bob, in a while, so I want to go to you in terms of, how are certifications starting to peek through in your RFIs and RFPs? Are we starting to see that in terms of when you look at your set of next purchases, where people will start mandating things like MEF certifications or other certifications that solutions need to abide by?
Right. I mean, one of the advantages of the MEF certifications is they're very open. So you know, we as a consumer of the products or services that are being certified is very important for us to do as consumers of that, to do our homework and make sure that, for example, the certification process is something that we would agree with, how it's being conducted, what's being certified. And so making sure that, you know, MEF certification is hitting all the points that are important to us. It may not be important in the same way to other vendors, but we have to come from it from our viewpoint. And so it's very important for the standards as well as the certification to be open so we can make that judgment call. And because it is a constant improvement loop, that we can provide MEF with suggestions in the next go-round of certification to, you know, help everybody else in the ecosystem. So we're all in this together. Remember, you know, alone versus together. Everyone has to pull together and do their own part to make sure that, everything in the SASE as well as the NaaS ecosystems are good for everybody. You know, all boats are lifted by the same tide, so.
I like that. I say that all the time, right? That in terms of that, it's the collective community that when we come together makes everything stronger. In these last couple minutes that we've got, I want to give each of you an opportunity to give some parting thoughts about, you know, our conversation today, and if there's any other pearls of wisdom. We'll start here with you, Ian, in terms of what would you like the audience to walk away with today in terms of our conversation?
One of the things I'd like to highlight is that what's interesting about the MEF, the SASE certification, is since we mentioned standards bodies earlier, IETF, IEEE, traditionally the standards have been around interoperability and being able to interop between disparate systems. And as someone mentioned earlier, you know, especially in the cloud-based era with some of the SASE solutions, there's less interoperability applicable there. However, it doesn't change the relevance of the MEF certification relevance, because the SASE certification is an effectiveness benchmark that's being developed, right? It's a certification and test protocol that is designed to provide a benchmark and baseline level of effectiveness for the respective core capabilities of each technology being certified. So that SD-WAN can protect your applications, Zero Trust can apply policy as needed and authenticate and protect applications, and so on and so forth. So I think that as MEF evolves and the certifications have evolved, what I'd like people to take away is that the certifications are not just about interop, but also about core effectiveness in order to help the ecosystem, each member of the ecosystem, whether it's the vendor, the service provider, or the end user customer, make faster decisions by understanding the risk profiles by how well a solution or product meets that benchmark in the standard.
Very good. And so I want to give it to you, Samuresh, in terms, perhaps you agree, disagree, or what's the pearls of wisdom we want people to walk away?
Definitely agree. Just want to add maybe a couple of points to it. So one thing with the advent of, everywhere we keep hearing about AI, and we as a security provider, we know that adversaries are actually using AI for attacking. So as a kind of a security vendor, we always want to stay ahead of the adversaries, and this is where we ourselves have to use AI to actually protect our customers. So security efficacy is the most important thing, and again, I think everybody here knows security issues are always there in the news. But what's in the news is really the 1% that gets through. But in most cases, vendors like us are able to protect most of the other attacks. That's number one. So the second thing is, even when we create the best security products, it's very important to understand how it is deployed. I was talking with one of the customers earlier, where the challenges are really that even with the best security solution, if it's not deployed correctly, it's not configured correctly, that's where I think many issues actually come up in the field. So, one piece of advice for everybody is like really focus on not just which vendor or how you are doing, but it's also how you are actually deploying the security solution. This is very important. And yeah, since we don't have much time, I'll let others talk.
Thank you, Samuresh. Manoj, final pearls of wisdom?
Yeah, so I would summarize by saying that in today's digital world, network is far from being a commodity, and it's the foundation of driving customers' transformation journey. Securities and network and security is almost synonymous now. It's almost together. I mean, I think based on some of the analyst reports, on an average, it takes a hacker about 5 days to break into a vulnerability in a system. It takes an enterprise on average 55 days to patch for a vulnerability, right? So that's the exposure that you're exposing yourself to. So implementing SASE becomes very, very critical for enterprises, and adopting solutions from bodies, international bodies like MEF that certify these solutions makes it more reliable and trustworthy. So that's all I summarize.
Thank you for that. Last but not least, Bob, any pearls of wisdom, or what would you like the audience to walk away with? Because you're at the end of the day using and buying, and you're living and breathing this stuff.
No, what everybody has said up here today is absolutely true, and so we agree with that. And you know, you don't have to go it alone. You can rely on MEF. You can rely on other IEEE, TIA, all sorts of different standards organizations, and also your partners. We partner and rely upon CISA, NIST on the government side. So keeping those lines of communication and those partnerships with people with the same type of end goal is always important. And so when you incorporate all those things, like for us, GSA, the value proposition is important, but a value proposition is worthless unless everything is safe. So cybersecurity, top of mind.
Well, there you have it. I want to give a round of applause to my distinguished panelists and the pearls of wisdom of today.